All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich Celenza. Thanks for checking out my channel. So what I think I'm going to call this video is you either don't have enough colognes or you have too many. That sounds whack. But anyways, I'll figure it out when I put the title in there. But what I want to talk about today is cologne, actually. I've been seeing a lot of videos now with dudes promoting all different things regarding colognes online, giving their input on it, which is wonderful. I mean, I've been obsessed with colognes throughout my entire life. I think a lot of that comes from our programming, from maybe our fathers, maybe even siblings or uncles or whoever. And that goes for perfumes as well with women, you know. If you're around a lot of people who smell a certain way and you like it, you kind of gravitate towards that a little bit. I was around my father, who wore a lot of colognes back in the 70s, along with his friends, and him being in the bar and nightclubs. I was kind of always around that, along with my mother wearing a lot of beautiful perfumes and having a lot of family members that were all kind of into that as well, especially in the 70s, regarding many different colognes, especially, I'll bring it up actually later. Hopefully I'll remember the brand. What I want to touch base here is, first of all, not getting taken advantage of by shitty cologne joints, even in malls. A lot of these people claiming that the colognes that they're selling to you or perfumes are legit when they're not. And again, that can go for not only, the little stands that you see when walking in the malls, those little kiosks or whatever the hell, but also stores that sell perfume, like inside the mall itself, like have an actual store. A lot of them, I don't believe, are legit, especially if they're heavily discounted. Flea markets as well. And I'll just bring that up now. So I just was with my father not long ago in Miami, and we were in I don't know if you know anything about Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Boca, Pompano, and those areas. They have a lot of different style flea markets, and we were in there, and then he's kind of caught up in the 70s, which is hysterical, and he was walking, and there was a kiosk there selling all different colognes, and I said, I'm not down with this. This ain't my thing. I don't like it. If it's not from a legitimate store, for instance, like a Neiman Marcus, Macy's, Bloomingdale's, something in that nature that sells the type of colognes I like, I'm not going to buy it. I just don't trust it. And the reason being is because over the last, 30 years of my life, 35, I've been burned, and I've realized some just aren't what they say they are. But back to my father, he loves Halston cologne. And, he collects a lot of colognes, my father. So the lady said, I have one for you. And I even said right in front of her, that's an old school cologne. Is this going to be legit or not? Probably not. I'm not saying they still don't sell it, but it's most likely a knockoff, because even though for its time, that's an amazing cologne, whatever, I told my pops, in the future, it's not going to work out very well. He argued with me, got it for a great price. Literally, I think in 2 weeks, he called me back and said, you nailed it. Doesn't smell anything like it like what it smelled like when I got it. And I said, of course it doesn't. That's pretty quick, though. And that's what I'm going to touch on, is when you buy colognes that are full of shit, they deteriorate very quickly. I mean, it's a lot of most colognes are all alcohol driven, just depending on what level. But a lot of them just are fake. And especially if you plan on having colognes for a longer period of time, which a lot of people do. You may have a cologne for 6 months, a year, even 2-3 years, which I wouldn't recommend. But as time goes on, it's going to get worse. It doesn't usually get better. Now, some do last longer than others. And that's the point I was kind of addressing at the beginning. You may have not enough, meaning you don't have any cologne, but too many. Because I used to collect colognes. I didn't have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. I had 15 or 20 like a lunatic. Why? Who the hell knows? I was obsessed with it. I still have a bunch of colognes. I'm not going to lie. They're kind of scattered. One in my gym bag, say one upstairs, one downstairs, one here, there. But I know in about a year and a half, I'm going to knock that bottle out, even sooner, right? So that's the thing, too, you got to realize when buying cologne is how much of it are you going to use, okay? I wouldn't hang on the colognes too long, because just the chemicals, too, I think when putting it on your skin, you got to realize, or your clothes, what is that doing to either one of them? Now, a lot of people will be like, hey, don't put cologne on your skin because it's, it's not good for your skin. Okay, we get it. But be careful when you put it on your clothes, it could deteriorate your clothes. Yeah, I get it. I'm going to always put it on my clothes. I care a lot more about my skin than my clothes. Plus, it lasts a lot longer on my clothes, I believe. And a lot of times, too, you may want to get creams that are very similar or cream based on the cologne you have. So when you put the cream on, then you spray the cologne. But I don't necessarily always like that. I think it's overkill. I like using a different style cream that has a certain scent and then a different style cologne on my clothes. Now, the trick to that is making sure it works perfectly. All right. And what I'm going to get into regarding colognes on this one too is something I talk a lot about in my book Wingman, and I think I list my favorite 100 colognes on there, or whatever that, or the top colognes. I can't say my top 100 colognes. That's ridiculous, but I probably had over 100 colognes. But in this case, the top colognes. And when it comes to cologne, how do I say this? It's a part of your identity, and it has to work specifically for you. I don't care how good it smells on your buddy. I don't care how good it smells on anyone else. It's got to smell good on you. Okay? And a lot of people don't realize this till it's too late. And that's why I always tell them start off with the samples. Go to big box stores and tell them, hey, I want to sample this. Give me a sampler. I don't care if it's, again, Neiman's, Bloomies, Macy's. I don't care if it's a Sephora, Ulta. I don't care where it's at. You get the samples. You test it. See how that smells on your clothes with the detergent you're using and on your body if you put it on your body. Don't bite the bullet and go spend 100, 150, whatever the case may be, on cologne, and then a week or two, 2 weeks later, it starts, like, this don't smell good. It doesn't smell like it did before. Yeah, it may not work with whatever chemistry your body or whatever your body is kind of, whatever. It just doesn't work. I'm not getting into particulars on what the chemistry of your body or, regarding sweat and all that, but it's got to work for you and you've got to test. And a lot of times, too, when you go sample colognes or you're walking in the mall, right? They got samples on a piece of paper. They spray. You smell, oh, yeah, that smells great. Well, yeah, it's on a piece of paper. It's not on clothing. It's not on the human body. It's not mixing with sweat. It's not mixing with any detergents. It's not mixing with different materials. All these things. So, of course, it's kind of like when you are in a magazine, or I don't know if you ever even, the younger generation may not even know this, but a lot of times you open a magazine and it would have a lot of cologne, samples there for you. Open them up, you sniff them, it smells outstanding. Again, it's on paper. That doesn't mean it's going to smell like that on you. So you need to find colognes that work specifically for you. And they smell great on you, all right? They got to smell really good. Also, a lot of times, too, you have deodorant. And you got to make sure all these shit's working together. It's like one big package. People don't think about that a lot of times. Because if you are using deodorant and then you're spraying cologne, let's say, that can start, commingling a little bit. Again, the detergent you're using, that's commingling too. So all this you really got to keep that, kind of going in your head. And it's not also just about when you first put it on. How does that smell an hour, 2, 3 down the line? Now, a lot of times if you go out to clubs or you just do anything in general, whatever the case, you're sweating, what's it smell like? Also, is it holding its strength with you? Some colognes, for some reason with me, hold better than others. I don't know why. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's always stronger at the beginning. It just may be more consistent. Don't think a lot of times, sometimes you put colognes on, you're like, whoa, it's strong now, it'll last, whatever. A lot of strong colognes that I believe go on really hard at the beginning, they seem to fade off the quickest. It's almost like gum. A lot of sugary gums, they start off real with that big impact, then before you know it, you're out of sugar very quickly. You may want to find a cologne that's just more consistent, all right? So these are just things that I wanted to address with you, but I'll tell you something. Years ago, and we're throwing the years ago here, I used to buy colognes at flea markets. And I think they were way more legit back then because a lot of colognes would come in and out of style. And a lot of times I liked, say, Giacomo di Giacomo or just Giacomo, for instance, say in the 80s, we couldn't find it in department stores anymore. You'd have to go find it in a flea market. You'd find them there. And you can sometimes maybe find deals in certain places, like, I'm going to just say Ross, Marshall's, TJ Maxx or something. They'll have brands that you like there. But what you have to also pay attention to is the expiration on them. Colognes, like anything else, have an expiration. A lot of times, I'm not saying they're getting those, but a lot of times you're getting, again, a deal at a store that looks like it could be a legit store, and it could be. But sometimes you'll buy a cologne there and you'll realize after a certain amount of time or a short amount of time, it's not as good. That doesn't mean it didn't necessarily come from that place or the original place who created it. It doesn't mean it's a knockoff, but the expiration. So, you really just got to pay attention. And I will say this at the end. I used to work for Neiman Marcus, and I thought it was an incredible company. I'm not going to say this. You get what you pay for a lot of times. And you're going to get usually a lot out of your cologne. It's going to last you. You're going to get a lot of sprays. That is something I wouldn't necessarily go cheap on. The way I smell is very important to me. Putting something on that you think's going to smell good and then turn shitty. Talk about the opposite of what you want. So maybe to save $20, $30, you go buy a knockoff or you go buy it in a store that you don't even know if that's good or whatever. It's not worth it. I'm just telling you. So one thing, I'm always trying to tell guys, how to live an incredible life affordably, how to save money. Yeah. But when it comes to cologne, to find really good cologne that lasts, that smells good, you're going to probably have to bite the bullet and go to a legit place, again, like the ones I mentioned previously. Don't cut the corners on this. Nothing is worse. We used to go for when we were younger too. We used to call it piss. Because a lot of colognes, especially if you sweat or they start off, smelling okay. And in an hour or two, you say, man, you just stink like piss. It sounds like a joke, but it almost has instead of something that's going to work that people are going to like being around, it almost is a repellent. So these are all things when you're wearing a cologne, if you plan on, is it making you and others feel comfortable around you, especially if, say, you're interested in women or, you don't care if you're dating or you're with your wife. I brought my cousin, I found this cologne Lagerfeld. We used to love it in the 80s, and a lot of people used to say, Rich, it reminds me of you because you wore it all the time, and I did. I wasn't a I like Giacomo. I wasn't a Drakkar guy as much. I wore a lot of different style colognes back then. But I wore Lagerfeld. I loved it. So, to make a long story short, my cousin was talking about it. He's like, I used to love that smell. So, I went and got him a big bottle. I found it, and it was at one of those stores. It was in San Diego, so it looked pretty legit. We got it. He started wearing it. It was very good. But what was funny is his wife despised it. She's like, this smells like the 80s. This is shit. Why is he wearing this? And I'm thinking in my head, why did I get this for him? He wanted it. She hated it. So what I'm saying is, I am going to say, if you're buying colognes for somebody, be very aware, especially if they're in a relationship. I know this sounds kind of funny. Or just buying it in general for somebody else. Because what you think they may want, they may not want, and who they're with, they may not want. And one thing I did think about too a lot of times is if you're dating somebody or married to somebody, I would try to make sure the cologne you're wearing isn't something resembling someone they had in the past. Not saying that they're going to run back to them, but I think you need to realize you need to come up with your own smell, your own scent. And I do that jokingly, but I really do think there's something behind that because, if things didn't work out or you just smell like somebody she was dating previously or whatever, I don't necessarily think that's a good idea. Same with if you're dating a girl or whatever and she's wearing the same type of perfumes or whatever she's wearing, creams that somebody else wore that maybe it didn't work out, good or bad. I don't always think that's a good idea, but I'm not messing with the woman. But if you are a dude, and you're looking for colognes or you're trying something, you may want to ask your wife, your girlfriend, whoever, and say, hey, did anybody else wear this before me? Is there a reason why you like this? Is it because of that? And if they say yes, well, then you may have to think about that. But if it's just like, no, she just loves that smell, consider taking the risk and kind of going with maybe someone you're dating too, is what I should say. And kind of, if you're okay with it, it can help both of you. Like, if you don't mind, because my girlfriend, she worked for Sephora, and she'd bring me back all different types of cologne. She actually just brought me back one. It's like a grenade. I forgot the name of it. But anyways, I haven't tried it yet, but I'm always up for trying anything. And as time goes on, will it smell good on me? I don't know, but back to experimenting. Don't get locked into with just one cologne for the rest of your life, because I do think after a certain amount of time, you do kind of date yourself. And you could do that all day, but after a while you may want to experiment and try with different stuff, right, to smell a little different. That could go for creams, soaps, shampoos, conditioners, and everything. Just try and experiment a little bit. You might be shocked. You may find something you like a lot better than even what you're wearing. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. Holy shit, that was a 15-minute. All right, if you want to know more about my cologne craziness, my book's Wingman. Just hit me up, and I'll actually send it to you if you want it. You can email me, leave a question or comment. I love helping people. I also have a program, Mastering Self-Confidence. I get into a lot of how important it is to smell good, especially around women. And I don't care if you're coworkers or anyone. You want to smell good. You don't want to smell like shit. That I could assure you. That is the last thing you want to do. So definitely pay attention to the way you smell. And if no one's telling you smell good, maybe because you don't. Just saying. All right, if you get a chance, subscribe. Also, I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You got any questions, just hit me up like I said. And take care.